Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents The Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net. whav.net. WHAV.
All right. Funny little echo there. All right. This is the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. I'm Tim Coco, your host. Chris Porter, DJ Chris, who runs 5 or more stations, is in master control. All right. Those of you who are expecting to find this program on Channel 22, hopefully you have tuned in to WHAV.tv or WHAV Stream on Facebook or WHAV.net for audio only. It is not, I repeat, HC Media Channel 22's fault. It appears to be a problem with Comcast. No programs are emanating from HC Media tonight. Those of you who have checked, you'll see there's a one moment please. This channel should be available shortly on Comcast. So that is a bit of a problem. But you can watch at WHAV.tv, and you can listen at WHAV.net and on AM radio 1640. Hopefully this fall you'll be able to listen at 97.9 FM, the new WHAV. On cable television, our friends in Andover, Channel 8, Methuen, Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios, Plasto, Channels 17 and 23, Sandown, Channel 17. This hour of the Open Mic is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank, just one bank. All right. If you'd like to call the program, we have open lines tonight, and I'm calling it Gripe Night. Gripe Night. You have a gripe? But if you don't, you can still call. Open lines, 978-374-1900. If you're shy, or perhaps you have a controversial concept that you don't want your voice associated with, you can email me directly at tcoco, T-C-O-C-O, at whav.net. There's also a message board below the TV screen at whav.tv. If you're on WHAV.net, simply go to the Tune In menu and choose Watch. All right, the board has been cleared of prior comments, so this is your chance to add your own. All right, last week we were cut off near the end on Channel 22. We went overtime, not their fault. So some of you wondered who won the birthday cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery, 140 South Main Street in Bradford. And the winner of the July birthday cake was Jackie of Haverhill. Jackie's name was submitted by Brian. But you, too, can possibly share in that wonderful 7-inch cake, choice of chocolate or vanilla from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. All you have to do is wish yourself a happy birthday or yourself and your spouse a happy anniversary if your birthday or anniversary is in August. We're now taking August birthdays and anniversaries. Call in your neighbor. Call in your friends, call in your coworkers, and perhaps they'll share the piece of cake with you if they win the cake. Very simple contest. Nothing could be easier. Call me, 978-374-1900. Wish someone a happy birthday. Wish someone a happy anniversary, a couple that is, or wish yourself. Wish your neighbor. You can name family. There are no restrictions on this, except that if you've won in the past 30 days, you have to wait. So, Of course, most people don't have birthdays within 30 days, but they might have a birthday and an anniversary, so that's understandable. So, but Albie D's second-generation Italian bakery provides the cake free of charge. The winner is drawn on the last Monday of the month, or the last Monday that there's a broadcast. I haven't looked ahead to see if there are any. I don't think there are any more holidays this month, so we'll probably be on all month, Comcast willing, I should say. But the cake, the winner receives a letter from WHAV, brings that letter to Albie D's, and collects the prize. Now, that isn't the only prize tonight. We have free admission to the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace in Haverhill. But here's a bonus. From now on, this free admission pass, those of you watching on television can see it, this free admission pass also lets you in to the Amesbury Whittier home. Yes, Whittier lived in Haverhill until 1836, and then he moved to Amesbury. So there's a house museum in Haverhill, and there is a house museum in Amesbury. This pass admits you to both, so it's a real good deal. And there's no embarrassing questions to answer. All you have to do is be the first one to request the free admission. Call 978-374-1900. Be the first to do that. And our great friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Streets in Bradford, have offered another trivia prize. It's a trivia question. If you win, you receive a $10 gift certificate, same as cash, to be used at Kimball Tavern Antiques. Now, several people reported during the last holiday season they were able to buy all of their gifts at Kimball Tavern Antiques. So it's still possible if you have someone on your list or several on your list who would appreciate a vintage artifact, otherwise known as an antique or a collectible. So that's a place you might try out. All right, let's see if I can read my own handwriting from last week. So this is a bowling-related trivia question. There were two bowling alleys. Who owned I'm trying to figure out what my note means. Who owned the Elite bowling lanes, and where did the parts of those bowling alleys go when Elite closed? Part 2, who owned City Lanes, and where did parts of that bowling alley go when City Lanes closed? So the question relates to Elite Bowling and City Lanes Bowling. Both were in downtown Haverhill. They both closed during the urban renewal era, and the parts of the alleys were installed elsewhere. So just name the owners and name where those parts went, and you will receive a $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques. So we have three prizes right now. Whittier Birthplace and Whittier Amesbury Home free admission for the first caller who asks. Wish someone a happy birthday or a couple a happy anniversary, and their name will be entered for the August cake drawing. That will be done at the end of this month. And last month, Jackie won the birthday cake. All right. I'm calling this Gripe Night. It might end up being my gripes because we're not sure. A lot of people look at their television and see that if it's not there, they assume it's not on. And they don't bother to check the internet stream or AM radio or what have you. So you can still watch the program at WHAV.tv. on your computer or smartphone. You can also listen at WHAV.net. And for those of you lucky enough to live in northern Haverhill, Atkinson and Plastow or in that area, you can listen on AM 1640. Coming soon, hopefully very soon, 97.9 FM from here to the seacoast. All right. Well, WHAV reported a number of news stories today. We have an update on one of them, and one might be one of the reasons why you may want to call and gripe. Let's start with that one. Haverhill Police, and we actually have the Haverhill Police incident log right here. Haverhill Police responded to dozens of fireworks complaints on July 4th. They were on Bellevue Avenue, they were on Abbott Street, Charlotte Street, Kingsbury Avenue, Hannah Dustin, Fay Place, Commonwealth Avenue, Harrison Street, South Pleasant Street, Canosa Avenue, Jackson Street, Mount Dustin Ave, White Street, 6th Ave, 16 Smiley Avenue, Primrose Street, Lancaster, Lafayette Square, Hilldale, Dexter, Nichols, Water, Groveland Streets. I mean, it just goes on and on. Were you bothered by illegal fireworks on July 4th, or maybe before that, or maybe after that? People who buy them in New Hampshire tend to just keep using them until their supplies are exhausted. So maybe you would like to comment on that. Were you one of the ones who bought some yourself and set them off? Did you annoy your neighbors? Let's hear your side of the story, too. 978-374-1900. Do you think fireworks should remain illegal in Massachusetts? Well, here's what happened in Maine. In Maine, which fireworks were also illegal there until this year, maybe the legislature in Maine figured people are going to buy them anyway from that rogue state between us, New Hampshire. Oh, sorry, Chris. Chris lives in New Hampshire. But there's that rogue state between Massachusetts and Maine that if it's a sin, it's for sale in New Hampshire. So you can buy fireworks there legally, and people do carry them over the border. So Maine just threw in the towel and said, fine, we'll make it legal. And wouldn't you know it, a young guy, I think he was early 20s, maybe someone heard the story and wants to report what they heard, but a young guy in Maine decided he would put the fireworks on his head and set them off. He died instantly. So maybe we need these laws to protect people from themselves. Perhaps you have a comment. Were you setting off fireworks? What do you think of the law that bans them in Massachusetts? Do you think they're any different in your yard than they are at Haverhill Stadium? Did you see them at Haverhill Stadium? I'd like to hear your thoughts. And if you were annoyed by fireworks, I really want to hear your thoughts. Let's well, we'll get back to that in a second. Here's our other major news story. It's already on WHAV.net, the only Haverhill-based news source that's always free. And we have an updated version that I'll read to you now. But there will be layoffs and patients directed elsewhere when Leahy Health Primary Care of Haverhill closes in September. You heard it exclusively on WHAV with all the details. The physician's office, 233 Lincoln Avenue at Rivers Edge Plaza, employs 10 people, including physicians, nurses, and staff. That office is going to close September 4th because of the, quote, challenging healthcare environment. That, according to Daniel Mara, Leahy's senior manager of media relations, spoke to WHAV today. He said Leahy Health recently conducted a comprehensive and thoughtful review of its primary care of network providers, and it was determined that based on patient volume and proximity to other primary care practices across the Leahy Health service area, it was prudent to consolidate some of our practices, he said. Now, residents who rely on that, there are some options for you. I'm going to see if I get this name right. Dr. Joseph Costagliola is relocating to Leahy Health Primary Care in Wilmington, Massachusetts. And Carla Colsar, nurse practitioner, is relocating to Leahy Health Primary Care in Ipswich. If you like those individuals, they're not too far away. In addition to these two practices, you can also choose a physician at the Merrimack practice of Leahy. That's Dr. Ray and Dr. Guidi. Or their Amesbury practice, Dr. Roberts, Dr. Schissel, Dr. Schulman, and Dr. Tlucko, if I'm saying that correctly. They're accepting new patients. Leahy says, "We sincerely regret any inconvenience this may cause our families, or cause our patients and their families. We want to ensure the behavioral community will continue to receive the highest quality care and hope that they join our providers at one of these new locations." He said patients interested in selecting another provider may view profiles and find information at leahyhealth.org//find-a-doctor. Now, those of you who have lived in Haverhill for a while, or perhaps just listened to WHAV, you may be familiar with a story that we've reported. But Dr. Frank Leahy, the founder of the Leahy Clinic, was a Haverhill native. He was a world-renowned physician. And as WHAV reported in a special open mic show last year before, Dr. Leahy was asked to provide a second opinion on the health of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1944. And he, after looking at Roosevelt, said that Roosevelt would die in office if he sought re-election. Now, Roosevelt had already served an unprecedented third term and was now running in 1944 for a fourth term in office. If he had survived, it would have been 16 years in office compared to today's constitutional maximum of 8 years. Nevertheless, Roosevelt got word from Dr. Leahy that he would very likely not survive, and as it turns out, Roosevelt did die 4 months into his fourth term. And this is where Dr. Leahy played a rather critical role. Dr. Leahy told President Roosevelt that since you're not going to make it, you better choose a good vice president. And Roosevelt immediately dumped the vice president who was going to be on the ticket and named Harry Truman. All right, we have to take a break. For this hour, I believe we have This Day in History, in Massachusetts history, and we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show. And please, your calls after that.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Your donations enable WHAV to remain local and independent. Consider giving what you can afford at whav.net.
Catch the wave!
Suspense, a weekly anthology of notable melodramas from stage and screen, fiction and radio, presented every Monday night to bring you to the edge of your chair, to keep you in suspense. Listen to the new Suspense with a company of Hollywood actors and surprising guest stars, Monday nights at 10, with encore performances at 1 a.m., right here on WHAV. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Today is July 6th. On this day in 1926, Boston's elder statesman of the blues, Weepin' Willie Robinson, was born. Raised in the South, he launched his musical career in Trenton, New Jersey, before coming to Boston in the late 1950s. Although Boston had a much smaller black population than Chicago or Detroit, all the players came through here. Roxbury, Willie later...
Every soft gold favorite catch the wave, WHAV.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show. This hour of Open Mic being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. All right. Well, we know you're out there because you're starting to send us messages, so you're kind of shy tonight, perhaps. But Nate Webster, former producer of the program, said... by email, my phone must not be smart. Can't get the video to show just audio. Well, after receiving that message during the break, I checked my phone, which is an Apple iPhone, and the video worked there. So perhaps others with different kinds of phones can tell us. Chris, what kind of phone do you have?
I have an Android. Do you want me to try?
Yes. Why don't you try, Chris?
All right, I will.
And then we'll ask Chris some other questions after that, more embarrassing ones if we can. All right. But anyway, and then David Gownswood responded to the comments about fireworks, and he writes on the message board at WHAV.tv, I don't need fireworks to annoy my neighbors. I prefer a more personal approach. Good for you, David. Those of you who are not overly familiar or maybe just tuning in for the first time, David Gowdswood, native of Haverhill, author of numerous history books, working on a pretty fun project now that we'll talk about in a bit. But he now resides in the South, shall we say, and always has a pretty good remark. I can almost read into this. He writes, I don't need fireworks to annoy my neighbors. It sounds like I don't need stinking fireworks to annoy my neighbors. All right, David, I'm just adding in for you. But David Gouds was working on a new project which will be widely announced and available in September. But David is editing a new book. And the name might take some of you by surprise. He's editing a new book called Snowbound with Zombies. Now, Snowbound being a very famous poem by John Greenleaf Whittier of Haverhill, and but most people, David wants to use this book as an exercise to point out, most people aren't aware that, John Greenleaf Whittier wrote Snowbound, and he named Canosa Lake, and he did other kinds of things, but he also was one of the first to write about supernatural happenings in Greater Haverhill. So Snowbound with Zombies features a wide array of very popular writers in this genre, and those writers were given an assignment by David to write some fresh material using Whittier or some of Whittier's work as inspiration. And I've had the opportunity to take kind of an advanced look, and it is quite an impressive collection of stories from an impressive collection of authors like Mr. Golden, who's the first name suddenly, Chris Golden. And actually, there's one from Roxanne Dent. Those longtime open mic show listeners may remember. Roxanne was on the program last Christmas season, and talking about her book, The 12 Days of Christmas. So, well-known authors, local authors, but more importantly, people who have written in the genre. All right. Back to some of our themes. On the issue of Leahy Health, Leahy Health is closing in September in Haverhill, and it's one of the last vestiges of the Leahy name here, named for renowned surgeon Frank Leahy. And I believe the other place in Haverhill that is still branded Leahy is Leahy Behavioral Health on Merrimack Street. And I'm not sure how much longer that's going to be there, since that building sits in the middle, or to the right-hand side, I guess, looking south, of the Harbor Place project. In fact, the building looks like it was damaged, or at least exposed, after most of the demolition that took place. All right. Okay, we do have a caller. Let's. You have about 4 minutes to the top of the hour, caller. What's on your mind?
I'm concerned how you segue from my books to mental health centers.
Well, it wasn't intentional, David.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Maybe it was subconscious.
My mother had me tested.
No, oh, maybe mine should have had me tested. Oh,
No,
that's right.
Anyway.
Yes, so you're calling to rescue me, are you?
Yeah, actually, you did fine.
Oh, all right.
If my parents didn't have an anniversary in August, I wouldn't have bothered calling. You just did fine without me.
Ah, so your parents have a wedding anniversary in August. Do you know which one it is?
Yes, I do.
Which-
56.
56. Congratulations, 56.
Yep, considering my mother is 27, I don't know how they did it.
Ah, yes, and you're also a politician, I see. All right.
No, I'm just really bad at math.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, I'm sure she's happy with that answer. I don't know if she would like to normally be tuning in on Channel 22, which is going to be a problem if she is. So.
Oh, I think I can get into trouble without any help.
All right. Chris, did you write down that information? All right. So, what is the date of their anniversary?
August 1st.
August 1st.
59.
Right at the beginning, so we better get the winners out soon this year if they're the winner. I mean, this year.
It's all right.
This
My
month.
family never met a cake they didn't like.
All right, and so hey, actually, you might be coming up. I guess they probably wouldn't keep the cake for a month, right? You'd be coming up in September for the announcement or for the ceremony surrounding the release of Snowbound with Zombies. Is that right?
Oh, it's actually a funny story there. We are doing an official debut, I guess, at the birthplace. And we're bringing in as many of the local authors as we can get to come. In fact, I know for a fact the ones in Rhode Island and Connecticut are coming up because they, you know the old story about profit in your own land. They love the birthplace. In fact, the contributors from Connecticut, Christy Schoonover Peterson, actually drove up to Haverhill before she wrote her story about a horror story about the telling of the bees, the Whittier poem, just so she could tour the property and see the old bee skep and see the actual beehive you have out there now.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and actually, you've
it's
been
popular.
You've been communicating with me about that bee. It's called a skep. Is that what it is?
It's called a skep.
Now,
And it's Old English. I don't know the derivation.
I have to say, we now have 120,000 bees at Whittier Birthplace. So we, thanks to attorney Joseph Edwards, and many of you know Joe Edwards as the former president of the Board of Trustees at Northern Essex Community College, or I guess the term is chairman. former chairman of the board at Essex Agricultural and Technical Institute, and of course chairman of the Haverhill License Commission, and who knew he was a beekeeper as well. So
he do keep busy, do he?
He does, and so so there are 120,000 bees at the birthplace. Don't worry, they're in their hives usually, I guess is a safe way, but not in a skep. So I don't know who used skeps and why. Maybe David.
Well, the skep is basically the traditional woven beehive that you see in a farm. You have one on the walking tour, one that's kind of in sad shape.
No, that's right. There is one at the birthplace. I mean, it's a woven structure, and you're no longer allowed to keep bees in them because to extract the honeycomb, you actually do damage to the hive and to the swarm. So they're strictly decorative now. I see. Very interesting. All right, David, we're up against news, and, you know, Chris is more violent than the other producers, so...
I like that about him.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? All right. But any other thoughts, or you're free to call back, and it looks like I still see the message on television. One moment, please. This channel should be available shortly from Comcast.
I'll tell you what, if it looks like you're really floundering and having to do a Bergeron and read your clothing labels, I'll call back.
All right. I appreciate that. And happy anniversary to your parents.
Yes. Clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you later, Tim.
Thank you very much. Actually, that's a good way to close out. If you would like free admission to the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace in Haverhill, with a bonus, free admission to the Whittier Home Museum in Amesbury, be the first person to call after the news, and you'll get one of these in the mail. These are brand new, and a brand new initiative that hasn't even been formally announced between Whittier Birthplace in Haverhill and Whittier Home in Amesbury. All right, I'm just keeping going to annoy Chris, but it looks like he's getting close to. Is that ammunition? All right, so we're going to go to local news with News Director Dana Esmo for a complete local report of the day. Then national news, local weather, and we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show after that.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic. Or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:03.
WHAV Merrimack.
Here's what's happening in local news. Several Haverhill residents have expressed online their frustration hearing late-night illegal fireworks in their neighborhoods Saturday and into early Sunday. Facebook the fireworks activity. Quote, "We enforce, we'll check to see if more can be done, you deserve quiet," Fiorentini said in a response. One Facebook user, identified as Maria Elizabeth, said fireworks noise bothers an autistic son with sensory issues. Quote, "Why don't you have the police enforcing this? Sounded awful last night in my neighborhood too, all night long," she told Fiorentini. In an online chat with another user, she added, quote, "Not everyone wants to hear illegal fireworks, and they don't clean up the left